The river hid a secret older than the city itself. One man's greed awakened it, and what he saw beneath the water changed his life, and the fate of everyone nearby. The river had always whispered to him, long before he ever learned to listen. In the lower Ninth Ward of New Orleans, where the Mississippi slid past the city like a slow, thinking giant, folks said the water remembered everything, every prayer, every body, every broken promise. Malik Johnson grew up hearing those stories on cracked porches and under streetlights buzzing like tired insects. His grandmother used to warn him that river ain't just water, baby. It got a soul, and it don't forget who disrespects it. Malik laughed back then. He laughed a lot before life taught him better. By 32, laughter had become rare. After Katrina took their house and the years after took his father, Malik learned how quickly a city could chew you up and spit you out. He hunted now, not deer or birds like his uncles once did, but things people didn't ask questions about. Lost cargo. Rare animals. Secrets that rich men wanted pulled quietly from dark places. And the Mississippi was full of dark places. On the night everything began to unravel, the city was humming with life above him, music pouring out of Bourbon Street, sirens wailing somewhere uptown, laughter bouncing off brick walls, but down by the riverbank, it was just Malik and the water. Thick fog rolled low, hugging the surface like it was hiding something. The air smelled metallic, old, like rust and rain had mixed and never separated. He wasn't alone, though he felt like it. Something had been watching him for days. He noticed it in reflections that didn't match his movements, ripples that formed without wind, and dreams that left him waking up soaked in sweat, hearing singing that didn't exist when he opened his eyes. A woman's voice, deep, commanding, ancient, calling his name even though he'd never spoken it aloud near the water. Malik told himself it was stress. Hunger. Lack of sleep. That lie worked until the river answered back. It happened just after midnight, when the fog thickened so much the city lights vanished behind him. Malik was checking one of his traps, custom-built, reinforced steel, hidden beneath the surface, when the water went still. Not calm. Still. Like time had paused. Then the singing started. It wasn't sweet. It wasn't soft. It was powerful, vibrating in his bones, carrying grief and authority in every note. The water began to glow faintly, a blue-green shimmer pulsing beneath the surface. Malik's hand trembled as he reached for his flashlight, his breath catching when a shape moved below. A crown broke the surface first, woven from coral and bone, glowing faintly like it carried moonlight inside it. Then eyes. Dark. Endless. Older than the city, older than the riverbanks carved by human hands. Malik staggered back, heart pounding so hard it hurt. The woman rose slowly from the water, her skin deep brown like wet earth, marked with symbols that shifted and moved as if alive. Her hair flowed around her like smoke underwater, and her tail, long, powerful, scaled in iridescent blacks and blues, curled beneath her as she hovered at the river's edge. This wasn't a story. This wasn't a dream. She looked at him like a judge looks at the guilty. And somewhere deep inside Malik's chest, something ugly and desperate stirred, not fear, not awe, but the echo of every whispered rumor he'd ever heard. Stories of creatures beneath American waters. Of fortunes gained. Of men who touched the impossible and came back rich. The trap snapped shut with a sound that still haunted him later, metal biting flesh, water exploding upward, the river screaming as if wounded. Her cry shattered the fog. The Mississippi surged, waves slamming Malik backward as he scrambled to hold his ground. The queen thrashed against the steel, her eyes locked onto his, no longer ancient and calm, but burning. Furious. Betrayed. The singing stopped. And that was when the river began to change. The current twisted unnaturally, dragging debris from the depths. The sky darkened, clouds rolling in fast and violent. Malik felt something wrap around his ankle, cold, scaled fingers, and yank, hard. He realized then, too late, that whatever deal he thought he was making with fate, the price was already being collected. As sirens wailed faintly in the distance and the river rose higher than it should have, Malik locked eyes with the trapped queen again, and this time, he understood. She wasn't the danger. She was the warning. And the Mississippi was just getting started. The water climbed the riverbank like it had intent, soaking Malik's boots, then his knees, cold enough to burn. He fought the pull around his ankle, fingers clawing at mud and roots, panic rising as fast as the river itself. When he finally broke free, he collapsed onto his back, gasping, staring up at a sky that now roiled with thunderclouds that hadn't been there minutes before. The queen stopped struggling. That scared him more than anything else. She hovered in the water, half submerged, the steel trap clenched around her tail like a cruel joke. The river churned around her, but she was still, too still. Her eyes softened, not with mercy, but with something heavier. Disappointment. As if she'd expected better of him. "You hunt what does not belong to you," she said, her voice no longer song but thunder wrapped in silk. It echoed not just in the air, but inside his skull. "And you think the river will reward you?" Malik shook his head, soaked, shaking. I didn't know," he lied, the words tasting bitter. He had known. Maybe not exactly what she was, but enough. She lifted her hand, and the water obeyed, rising higher, swirling with images, visions pouring into his mind whether he wanted them or not. He saw New Orleans drowning again, not with rain, but with river water pushing past levees like paper. He saw streets he grew up on swallowed whole, heard children screaming, elders praying, musicians' horns silenced by rushing black water. He saw bodies floating, eyes open, blamed on storms, on bad planning, on acts of God. Then he saw her. Bound before. Hunted before. Always by men who thought the world owed them riches. "This river remembers," she said. "And now so will you." Lightning split the sky. Thunder slammed down so close Malik felt it in his teeth. The water surged again, harder, lifting him off his feet and slamming him against a cypress trunk. Pain exploded across his ribs, but he barely felt it. His eyes were locked on the trap. Blood, dark, shimmering, leaked into the Mississippi, spreading like ink. The river reacted instantly. The current twisted violently, pulling trash, logs, and old bones from the depths. Malik saw faces in the water, black faces, brown faces, forgotten faces, men and women lost to the river over centuries, their mouths opening as if to speak. "Please," Malik whispered, his voice breaking. "I didn't mean." "You meant enough," she replied. The river rose another foot. From behind him came the sound of engines, boats. Flashlights cut through the fog, bouncing wildly as voices shouted. "Yo! Who out there?" "Man, the water's acting crazy." Local fishermen. Night patrol. People who would ask questions Malik couldn't answer. The queen's gaze flicked toward them, then back to him. "They cannot see me unless I allow it. But you," she leaned closer, her eyes inches from his. "You will live with the seeing." She touched the water with one finger. The Mississippi screamed. A wave surged forward, capsizing one of the boats instantly. Men fell into the water, shouting, splashing, fighting the current. Malik's heart lurched. "Stop," he yelled. They didn't do nothing. She studied him carefully, as if weighing something. Then, slowly, she gestured. The current shifted just enough to shove the men toward the bank instead of pulling them under. They scrambled out, coughing, terrified, swearing they'd seen something impossible. Malik turned back to her, hope flickering painfully in his chest. "I'll fix it," he said desperately. "I swear. I'll let you go. I'll disappear. I won't tell nobody." The queen's expression hardened. Release is not forgiveness. He crawled back toward the trap, hands shaking uncontrollably. The metal was warped now, glowing faintly from the pressure of the river's anger. As he reached for the release mechanism, the water around his arms grew icy, his muscles stiffening. "You do not understand yet," she said softly. "Regret is not a moment. It is a life." Malik fumbled with the latch, fingers numb, every second stretching like a lifetime. Behind him, the city lights flickered, just once, then again. Somewhere far away, alarms began to wail. The trap clicked. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the queen screamed, not in pain, but in command. The river exploded outward, throwing Malik backward as her tail slipped free, scales flashing like lightning beneath the water. She rose fully now, towering, radiant, terrifying, the river bending around her as if bowing. She looked down at Malik one last time. "You wanted riches," she said. I will give you something far more valuable. The water surged toward him again, and Malik realized, too late, that whatever she was about to give him wasn't meant to be spent, and it definitely wasn't meant to be escaped. The Mississippi closed in around his chest as the lights of New Orleans flickered once more. The river did not swallow Malik whole, not yet. Instead, it held him. The Mississippi wrapped around his body like living chains, lifting him just enough to breathe, just enough to stay conscious. He dangled there at the edge of the water, suspended between the city he knew and the depths he had disturbed. The queen hovered before him, no longer raging, no longer merciful, only certain. As the storm pressed down on New Orleans and the river crept higher along its banks, Malik understood what his life had become in a single, crushing wave of clarity. He had grown up believing survival meant taking whatever chance appeared, even if it came coated in danger. He had convinced himself that the river was just another resource, something to be used, trapped, profited from. But the Mississippi had been watching him long before the trap ever closed. It had watched his childhood, his losses, his bitterness. It had listened as desperation slowly replaced dignity. And when he finally acted on that desperation, when he captured what ruled the river rather than belonged to it, everything he thought he knew collapsed. The queen did not kill him. That was the cruelest part. Instead, she let him see. She showed him how the river had protected the city for generations, diverting worse floods, swallowing poisons meant to spread inland, claiming sacrifices when humans took too much and gave nothing back. She showed him hunters before him, men who had tried to cage power, beauty, and myth, and how each one had lived just long enough to regret it. Malik saw himself reflected among them. He saw the moment of capture replay again and again, not as triumph, but as betrayal. He felt the weight of the trap, the fear in her eyes, the imbalance it caused in the water. Every surge of the river, every flickering light in New Orleans, every siren echoing through the streets traced back to that single decision. And the queen made sure he understood this truth clearly. Releasing her did not undo the harm. Regret did not erase consequence. As boats gathered along the riverbanks and people whispered about strange tides and impossible waves, Malik remained bound to the water's will, alive, aware, and changed. The riches he once imagined dissolved into something heavier, responsibility, memory, and a debt that could not be paid with money or silence. The storm still hadn't broken. The river was still rising. And the queen had not yet told him what his life would now be used for. The story was no longer about the capture. It was about what the river would demand next. The queen lowered him gently until his feet touched the riverbank again. The water released him, but Malik knew instantly he wasn't free. Something cold and unseen had settled deep inside his chest, pulsing in time with the river's current. "You will stay," she said, her voice quieter now, but heavier than thunder. "Not in chains. In duty." The storm eased just enough to feel deliberate. The wind slowed. The water stopped climbing. Sirens faded one by one across New Orleans, confused, unanswered. The city would wake up the next morning blaming weather patterns, faulty sensors, bad forecasts. They always did. Malik dropped to his knees, exhausted, broken. What do you want from me?" She looked past him, toward the city skyline glowing faintly through the thinning fog. "The river needs a witness. A keeper who walks among your people. Someone who knows what happens when greed outweighs respect." He felt it then, his heartbeat sinking with the Mississippi, memories that weren't his pressing against his thoughts. He could feel currents shifting miles away, sense disturbances in the water like pain in a limb. The river had marked him. "You will warn them," the queen continued. "And when they do not listen, you will remember. Every loss. Every flood. Every name the river takes." Tears slid down Malik's face, disappearing into the mud. He finally understood the true punishment. He would live. He would age. He would watch the city struggle, rebuild, celebrate, forget, over and over again. And every time the river was disrespected, every time it was poisoned, narrowed, exploited, he would feel it. The queen began to sink back into the Mississippi, her form dissolving into light and shadow. Before she vanished completely, she looked at him one last time. "Regret made you worthy," she said. "Do not waste it." The water stilled. By morning, Malik was gone from the streets he once knew. Some said he left the city. Others swore they saw a man standing by the river at dawn, whispering to the water like it could hear him whisper back. Years passed. When floods came unexpectedly, people noticed a stranger warning neighborhoods hours before the water rose. When boats capsized, survivors spoke of a man pulling them from the current with impossible strength. When developers pushed too far into the riverbanks, projects failed in ways no engineer could explain. And sometimes, late at night, when the Mississippi glowed faintly under the moon, the river sang again, not in rage, not in sorrow, but in balance. Malik never hunted again. He listened. And the river remembered. Thank you for watching.